I found this story particularly interesting, being a woman as well. A lot of times we think of our phones. You can get on social media, you can take pictures, you can do all these fun things, computer in your pocket, and I don't think we always, you know, realize how important some of the features that Apple has incorporated onto their devices, how they can really be life-saving to you. In this particular story, a woman uses the emergency SOS that comes on your iPhone. It saved her from an attempted rape. She was out one night with friends. She was getting ready to get in her Lyft car to go home. A man came up to her and said, "Hey, I'm in the military. I can't find my phone. Can you help me? Maybe call it or ping it." And of course, she did, because she said, her brother is in the military, and she was concerned that if he didn't find his phone, he would miss his call and he'd get in all kind of trouble. She said she immediately felt safe because he said he was in the military. Come to find out, he was just using that as a ruse to sexually assault her. So after she realized something was a bit off and she tried to leave, he grabbed her and forced her onto the ground and started to try and pin her down. But she had her iPhone in her hand, and she was able to hold the two side buttons that activates the SOS. And she was able to call 911, and they were recording, of course, it's 911. They could hear everything that was going on. And she was able to, by using SOS and having someone on the line while this guy had her pinned down, she was able to guide the police to where she was, to essentially save her from being sexually assaulted. Now, the thing is, this happened back in 2019, but it's just now coming to light because, again, they did catch the individual who was attempting this assault. And it took, 2, 3 years for him to go to court. And so this came out during the court proceedings, that the way that she was able to contact law enforcement, contact first responders, was by activating this SOS feature on her phone. And it's one of those things where I think we take for granted, these computers in our pockets that we have. We think only of them for some of the fun stuff and the entertaining things, but this truly did save this woman from a life altering, a life changing event by merely being aware of the tools that her phone provided. So I definitely did want to bring that up for our listeners, to make sure you get familiar with your phone more than just calling or texting. Get familiar with some of the actual features of your device that may come in handy to save your life or prevent something nefarious from happening to you. So I thought this was very interesting to see. And what kind of came out of it? It was some additional awareness to this feature that is on your iPhone, if you didn't already know.
Yeah, so a lot of things happened right for this to actually work in her favor. Like she said, she was able to get the phone. Um, the 911 dispatcher, because when you call SOS with the emergency services, it also sends you your approximate location.
Hmm.
But the 911 dispatcher was able to pinpoint her location even more because they were listening in on what was going on in the background,
Hmm.
because the location services would have sent police to like a
To a
nearby
hotel.
hotel. They'd have been running
Hmm.
around looking at the hotel when they were off near the water. So a lot of things went right for this to work, but I would rather you do this and pray everything else works in your favor
Did not
versus
do anything.
not having that option.
Yeah.
So when I read this, I thought of I have a phone, my wife has a phone, my daughter has a phone, my other daughter will be getting a phone. Pretty much everybody in our house has a phone, except for my son. He's 5, and if there was ever an emergency to where we needed him to help, whether it be to whatever, he's old enough to where if something happened, he could talk to somebody.
Hmm.
But the phones have Face ID, they have Touch ID. He's 5, he's not gonna be able to do all that. Versus being able to pick up a old school phone, he knows how to dial 911. What he don't know how to do is use our phones to do the emergency SOS. So um, this story doesn't affect me personally directly, but if something were to happen and it was just me and him or me and my wife and or whatever the case may be, we need to teach him how to actually activate the SOS thing. So when it comes down, like I said, I would much rather him be able to do it and do something versus just assume that he can't do it or he's too young
Mhm.
or whatever the case may be and something happen. I'd much rather need it, not have it versus have it and not need it.
Exactly.
Or the
Exactly.
other way around. Have it, not need it. I can't remember how the phrase goes.
Have
Need
it
have
have
it
it and
and
not
not
need
need
it rather than need it and
need
not
it,
have
not
it.
have it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, make sure you know how to use some of the features on your phone, especially those that are related to safety.
And real quick, the way you do it is you hold the volume up button and the power to sleep wake button. Once you hold them for a couple seconds, and it'll give you the option to turn the phone off or do the SOS, and you swipe the SOS, and then that triggers that. So just heads up, that's
And
how
if
you
you
do that.
can't and if you can't swipe the emergency SOS slide, just continue pressing it and it takes like 3 seconds and it'll
Count
automatically
down.
call in
Yeah.
case you can't swipe. If one hand is pinned under something or whatever the case may be, if you can't do the swipe feature to enable the emergency SOS, just keep pressing and holding and it will go ahead and make the call for you.
Right. And the same thing on the watch. If you just press and hold just the not the digital crown, but the smaller button, can't think
Below
of
it.
what the name of that button is. Press and hold that. That'll do the power off, and then also you can swipe or hold it to do the SOS.